with the God complex of being a parent stripped away, it can be scary what you find underneath. As a life coach and therapist that has a fair share of both mommy and daddy issues that I've worked to resolve and continue to heal over the past 8 years, let me be one of the first to tell you that something that will get in the way of your healing journey is failing to see your parents for who they truly are. Here's the thing. You have a younger self, okay? Like, for example, I'm 33, but I'm not just 33. I'm 30, I'm 3, I'm 13. I'm every age in between birth and present. So, what that means is I have inner children that I care for. And specifically, these inner children or the earlier versions of me have memories and traumas associated with those memories and the people that I had growing up in my life, right? With those memories comes versions of people. And sometimes we may have versions that conflict with the versions that we experience today. So, for example, what I have to reconcile in my healing journey with my mom is that the younger version of me, probably the 8, 9, and 8, 9, 10, 8 through 11-year-old version of me, right? She has the most favorable perception and depiction of her mother. She is so loving. She always gives the best hugs. And though this version of me also remembers an intense and deep loneliness, she remembers that loneliness being eclipsed by momentary affection from her mother. However, the older version of me, and I would say this is the version that I would say the version of my mom that I now am reconciling with is the version that I will say the 20-year-old to 33-year-old has been working to uncover. Imagine finding out a secret at 20 and realizing what you believed your entire life was, in so many words, a lie. Well, over the past 13 years, I have been uncovering who my mom really is. And there's this other version and depiction of her that I have. This version is nowhere near warm. In fact, she's incredibly cold. I have come up with the word transactional because it does a good job of showing her tendencies, because abusive would not cut it. She wasn't abusive, but she was emotionally manipulative for her personal gain. And I felt like transactional was the best way to show that. This means that she does not engage with me in a warm, relational building kind of way. She relates to me as it benefits her and has a hard time um, getting to know me as an individual. I serve as a benefit to her. I'm like AI to her. I am like a genie or a butler. I'm someone that makes her life easier, but not exactly someone she wants to enjoy. So imagine the clash of these two versions of who my mother is. And this is a battle that continues to go on in people that do not do the work. And because I've done the work, I hold space for these versions. As a matter of fact, what I often invite my clients to do, and I'll definitely encourage you to do the same, is I like to hold meetings with all the different versions of myself and schools of thoughts that I have, and I'll let them all offer something in a meeting. And what I believe a good CEO does is they'll take in careful consideration what everyone at that roundtable has to say. Because no matter the position, no matter the years of wisdom or experience each version has, they all have something to offer. If the CEO does not listen to the janitor, they may be completely unaware of, sanitary conditions that can lead to that company's reputation going downhill. If that CEO doesn't listen to the maintenance man, that building can incur some damage that will set the business behind. If that CEO doesn't listen to the executive assistant just as much as that CEO wants to listen to the VP of XYZ, things can go wrong. So I believe in listening to my 8-year-old self just as much as I listen to, this 33-year-old self that comes up. I believe in listening to, this version and that version. And I consider a lot of what I've experienced because it makes me who I am today. Your healing journey is pretty much you reparenting yourself and knowing how to be present for these younger versions of you. Because I have this awareness and because I integrate all versions of myself, I am not losing my mind when I see this cold version of my mom. I hold space because the 8-year old had an inkling that something was wrong, and she also experienced a different version of my mom that we no longer see, but sometimes see glimpses of. So it's like I have this like open conversation, and not out loud, but in processing, maybe in therapy and conversations with friends that like discussing these things. I process what I'm feeling, and that's the thing. A lot of times we don't realize we're feeling a lot of sadness, and it's the sadness that a younger version of ourselves hold on to. But when we don't process it, our older selves end up being more callous. We turn to really negative habits like maybe binge drinking or overly sexual nature. It could be a lot of different things, but the something that's going to stand in your way is not reconciling these two versions. Understanding that my mom is neither this person or that person, but both, and really integrating it is really, really hard because my inner child is like,
No, wait. Mommy is under there. She loves us. She cares about us. She gives us hugs. Remember those hugs?
and I have to step in and make sure that my inner child understands, yeah, I remember those hugs. You always deserve those hugs, but you also deserve more than those hugs. You remember feeling lonely? You remember feeling sad?
Yeah, I do. But remember, mommy would come and
Yep. Your mom was also a big part of the sadness that you felt. There were a lot of moments you felt left out. You remember
yeah,
that? And you don't even realize that you start to protect the image of your mom, your dad, or whatever relative because you needed them to survive. It was a part of your survival why you decided to protect their image and decide that loyalty to them was important. And it was conducive to your survival. You needed your parents, you needed, namely, your mother, to survive during your formative years. So there's a part of you in your teenage years and in your adulthood, and definitely your older adulthood, that struggles with feeling guilty about reconciling who they really are. Except now you have the maturity, something that your 8-year-old self didn't have. You now have it now to perceive your mother, your father, either parent or any relative for who they really are, and that sucks. We don't talk enough about how that sucks. I have to see and uncover just how manipulative my mother can be, how she does things to protect her image, and how she wants to make sure she comes across a certain way, even if it means throwing me under the bus. There's a part of me that couldn't ever fathom that my mother would be this person, and yet there's a part of me that feels validated seeing that this is who she is, that it's not me. I didn't cause her to be this unwarm, unlovable mother. This is just who she is by nature. She is lovable in her own strange way, but it doesn't translate in the way that I receive love. I just know that we just don't talk enough about how difficult it is to see your parent outside of just being a parent. And a good question to ask yourself is, would you want to be friends with either of your parents or any relative you might be thinking of throughout the course of this video? Would you want to be friends with them if you guys grew up in the same era and generation? If your mother, father, or relative were your age right now, would you guys be best friends? Would you guys be friends? Would you consider them a mentor if they're a few years older than you? Would you listen to them? Would you be loyal to them? Would you date a version of them? That might be a little weird to think about, but when you think about their qualities, it is almost like unnerving to really look at them for the human that they are, imperfect as they are, and see them for who they really are. With the God complex of being a parent stripped away, it can be scary what you find underneath. Anyways, this is me just sharing some thoughts about processing some mommy daddy wounds and things of that nature, and it never stops. It seems endless. The grief feels never ending, but you also grow with all the revelations and the epiphanies, and you start to feel better about your ability to integrate all of your experiences, knowing that you're not going crazy. There's a very valid part of you that remembers this feeling, and there is another very valid part of you that's making sense of why things always kind of felt a little bit out of place. You didn't have the maturity back then to put it all together, but now you do. All right, that's it for me. I love you guys. I mean it. Head to the link in bio, book a session if you need it. Enjoy the free resources on my website, and stay tuned because there will be more content in the new year. Bye.